Welcome back to the reading of Rebirth, my memoir. I'm reading chapter 34. So again, if you just happened upon this video just now and you don't know what it is that I'm doing, I strongly encourage you to go back to the beginning. I've been reading chapter by chapter. So I want to make sure that you're following the story in the sequential order. This is chapter 34. We're almost at the end. Make sure you click that like button, subscribe, so that it reaches the people who are meant to hear this story. And thank you so much for the people that are sending me comments, feedback, questions. I'd love it if you drop those in the comments below. And we're reading chapter 34 today, and it's entitled Group Emails. I'd been trying to keep up with individual messages, but the sheer volume felt impossible to manage. It was easier to include everyone on everything, uncensored of everything that had been happening, every thought and insight, no more filtering or carefully constructed versions of myself. The passage, everything hidden will be revealed, everything revealed will be hidden, continued to echo in my mind like a mantra. It was my new battle cry. I was free of inhibition, free of shame. I had lost all interest in hiding or keeping up facades. It was exhausting. Guilt, justification, keeping up appearances, it all felt like an unnecessary weight, and I refused to carry it any longer. I want to be free from the illusion that we have to be anything other than what we are, free from the lie that our need to hide ourselves is anything more than a construct of the mind. A door had opened and I refused to close it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of being seen. Pressing send gave me such a rush, like a shedding of old skin. Feeling lighter and refreshed, I could crawl into bed and rest. I had only slept a short while when the phone rang, waking me. It was Marcus. Hey, MJ, how are you doing? He asked when I picked up. I had worked with him a few years back, and we had become fast friends. Things are a little crazy, I said, shifting upright, but I'm okay. Are you sure? We're a little concerned over here. Who is we? Damien and I got your emails. He insisted. I called to check up on you. Ah, that's sweet. It's just a few birth complications. My midwife team wasn't very competent, and I felt traumatized by one of them. Then at the hospital, the student midwife pulled on the umbilical cord and tore the placenta. My uterus didn't contract, so we ended up in the emergency room a few times. The doctor at emergency called Children's Aid. You know, the standard birthing drill. I laughed, a full belly laugh. That doesn't sound normal, he said, concern tainting his voice. Nope, definitely not. And it turns out Maudel's mom was praying I wouldn't give birth at home because she didn't like the midwife. She was concerned and prayed I wouldn't deliver with her. I guess I have to make sure people are on my team going forward. Not that she wasn't, but she was praying for an outcome I didn't want. And I realized, though it's not what I wanted, it's what was meant to be, just because it happened. Marcus was quiet for a beat. Then, you sound normal. Thanks. I laughed again. Did you expect me to be different? Your email was somewhat frightening. Ah, well, I seem to be having a spiritual experience. I thought all new moms experienced it, so I sent out a coded message. Perhaps I was overly honest. Slightly. That's how I usually roll, though. Nothing unusual. Yeah, he chuckled. Glad to hear you're okay, other than some hiccups. I'll let Damien know I talked to you. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks for calling. It's good to talk to someone who isn't judging my every word. Later that night, I reread the email that had prompted his concern. It was just the truth, but I was learning that the truth made people uncomfortable. I checked my inbox again. Kathy's name stared back at me, unread. My stomach tensed. She was one of Maudo's closest friends, someone I trusted. She had made us cookies the first time I visited her home, mothering us in her quiet, warm way. She felt like an aunt or an older sister. But now her name on the screen made my throat tighten. She had messaged Maudo, urging him to get me help in the form of medication. I knew she meant well. I had only skimmed her email. The first few lines were enough to make my chest ache, enough to feel the weight of judgment sink in before I even understood her full intent. It wasn't her concern that stung. It was the assumption that I was unwell, irrational, or unstable, that this experience, which had cracked me open and flooded me with the sacred, could be reduced to a prescriptive label. The feeling of betrayal sat in my gut, but even that couldn't compete with the louder ache to be understood. I clicked reply. I wasn't trying to defend myself or prove I wasn't unraveling in the way they thought I was. I was strong, even if raw. I wanted her to know the truth, to see through the veil. I told her that Mauro had always known everything. I never kept him out. Did I talk too much? Yes, but it was my attempt to let him in. I wanted him to know Evelyn, to be part of this life we were building. I wanted her to know that what we were going through wasn't the neat story she might have assumed, that we didn't need rescuing. We needed space to figure out who we were now as parents, as partners. I told her I loved being a mother, the diapers, the laundry, the late nights. I didn't even know it, but I had waited my whole life for it. I was doing what I was born to do. I didn't need fixing, and I didn't want Mauro's guilt, just his presence, his connection. And that is not depression. It was transformation, a renewal. We had collided into something entirely new, and we needed to figure out how to make it work. We were dealing with the force of nature, fierce and messy. And yes, I was protective, hyper aware even. But how could I not be? I was a mother now. I even reminded her of something that felt both tender and distant. The time Mauro and I had talked about naming her and Mike as godparents to our children, back when we weren't sure if she'd have a child of her own. It was our way of showing how deeply she mattered to us and how much she belonged in our story. I was still trying to connect. I was still reaching out, hoping that someone might bridge the chasm forming between us, still trying to thread my experience back into the web of relationship I had once trusted. I still thought that if I explained it well enough, someone would finally see me clearly. I was still hoping someone would say, "You're not crazy. I see what you see, and it's phenomenal." But I was no longer sure anyone could. Still, I hit send. Another message into the void, and I waited. No stones left unturned, nothing left hidden. And that is the reading of chapter 34 of my memoir, Rebirth. If you haven't click that like button yet, please click that like button. It helps spread this out to reach the people who are meant to hear it. Make sure you subscribe so you know when the last chapters drop. Leave your comments, questions, thoughts, insights, favorite color in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you and know that you're here. And thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.